energetic, and practical.
Intellectual stew.
Informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
What's up? It's another show. It's another, what I like to call, opportunity for us to get together and share in conversation. Tonight, I'm rolling by myself. I don't have my children with me. Trey is at home recuperating because he had surgery, and thank God it was successful surgery. He had to have something done to his labrum, I believe is what it was. And so I'm excited that he is okay and he's recovering. Kennedy is preparing to go back to school. So I am going to roll solo tonight. And I'm going to be honest, we didn't have a show last week because Disco got a chance to go and go to Miami and see his son graduate from college. Everybody say yay for Disco. Yay. Disco son got his degree, and that was a good thing. So we took last week off, and I ain't gonna lie, we were almost tempted to take this week off too, but I didn't want to set that precedence because that is not a precedence that we want to set. We want to try our very, very best to be as consistent as possible. Now, if you are watching me live now, feel free to go to Disco100 Radio on YouTube. And there you can see me live in the studio. And when you see me in the studio, you'll be able to see the actual green screen and all of those things. So you can actually participate in the conversation through, because Disco is watching you in the YouTube live chat. So if you all are interested in joining in the conversation, please, ma'am, please, sir, don't hesitate to do so. So I was really stumped tonight as what it relates to what I wanted to discuss. I think the last time that I was here, my children and I talked about raising your average, if I'm not mistaken. And with that whole conversation, what we dealt with was that we are the average of the top five people, the five people that we spend the most time with. So that conversation was a good conversation, and we've done several different things over the last several weeks. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about. You know, everything that I try to talk about, I try to do something related to on the path to better, something that's going to potentially challenge or better our community, and that is my goal. For all of us to get on this path to a place, and it's not an imaginary place. It's more so a state, I believe, a status that you and I should aspire or desire to get to. All of us should want better. I've always heard the biggest room in any house is the room for improvement. Now, so Disco, I know you're not really working tonight. You don't even have your mic, do you? Oh, you got your mic? All right, cool. You don't really have to participate in a conversation like that, but you know, as a preacher, I'm kind of used to call and response. You know, so when I preach, a lot of times I get my amens and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't have my children here with me tonight to give me any amens or anything of the sort. So I'm gonna have to get comfortable doing this by myself, especially since Kennedy's going back to school and Trey's moving on with his career and all that. But look, here's the dilemma. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. Another thing. Phone number is 678-638-6626. So after I get through this little history portion of the lesson tonight, or of the conversation tonight, and you want to call in, the phone number is 678-638-6626. If someone's in the chat and don't mind helping me out by pinning that post up saying the phone number 678-638-6626. I'll appreciate you. Also, our website is alive and live and published now. It is www.theintellectualstew.com. You can go there and see all of our previous videos. You can hear our bio. You can read our bio and see how we got to this place where we're on the path towards better. So, yeah, and if you come in the chat, or if you come in either one of the chats, do me a favor, put your name and let me know where you're from. So let's get started. Here is the dilemma. This is a hot button issue: to get the shot or not. To get the shot or not. Everybody is talking about this whole vaccine issue. I mean, it's a big dilemma. And here are several prevailing questions. Some of the questions are, not only should I get the shot or not, but should I allow my children to get the shot if they're allowed to get it, or if they're of age to get it, or did my parents get the shot? And because some of us hadn't seen our parents in several months because we didn't really want to be around them because of what potentially could or could not happen. And then here other questions are, what are the ramifications if I don't get the shot, and what are the ramifications if I do get the shot? And then there's another crowd that just basically says, I'm not getting it regardless of whatever. You got a whole bunch of schools of thought as it relates to whether or not we should get the shot. And I believe what's going on now is that a lot of the differences that we are experiencing, these differences have led to division. Because just like there's the term that is real prevalent in our society called racism, I've created or made up a term tonight called vaccinism. It seems like that the vaccine has caused people to be divided. It's caused people to go in different directions. It's caused a lot of discrimination, if you will, between a lot of people. And I think we need to discuss it. Because my biggest issue is I really don't care whether you get the shot, if you get the shot, if you choose not to get the shot, whatever you decide, it's your choice. And I believe you should be able to ride with your choice. It's amazing how in so many areas we don't want people involved in our lives. Don't tell us how to raise our children. Don't tell us how to do this. Don't tell us how to do that. But then in other instances, then yeah, we're not smart enough to make the right decision. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a position on it. If you want to get it or if you don't get it, hey, that's your thing. Just don't tell other people what they should or shouldn't do. That's just my opinion on that. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at. I'm going to take a roundabout way to get into the subject tonight because I'm trying to, as I said, I'm trying to juxtapose vaccinism with racism, because racism understand that the concept of race. People really miss that whole racism thing up. I hear people calling black people racist and white people calling black people racist. First of all, black people cannot be racist. Now, hear me on that and hear me well, and don't turn off your thinkers or your tuners when I say that. Now, just because we can't be racist does not mean we can't be prejudiced. Now, we can be prejudiced because we can dislike a certain crowd, we can dislike a certain ethnicity, we can dislike a certain culture, and we can do that, and that's being prejudiced. But being racist means that I am the dominant culture and that I can oppress another culture. Let's break this down a little bit. Michelle Alexander wrote the book called The New Jim Crow. And if you haven't read that, I want you to read that. In fact, real soon, I'm going to do a book club on that. I think I'm going to take that more so to a real podcast forum. And we're going to, not just video, but I'm talking about audio. And we're going to really go through and dissect that book called The New Jim Crow. But she said something talking about the birth of racism. She said the concept of race is a relatively recent development, only in the last few centuries, owing largely to European imperialism, have the world's people been divided along racial lines. Typically, everybody was just even, color, whatever. We all live together. But then all of a sudden, classism and all these things, European imperialism comes along, and they start to divide people through racial lines. So here in America, the idea of race emerged as a means of reconciling chattel slavery, as well as the extermination of the American Indians, with the ideals of freedom preached by whites in the new colonies. Because understand, when they first discovered America, slavery was not in place yet. At that point, they were still doing what they did in England, which was indentured servitude, and indentured servitude was a dominant means of securing cheap labor. But what happened was, under this system, whites and blacks struggled to survive against a common enemy, what historian Lerone Bennett describes as the big planter apparatus, and a social system that illegalized terror against black and white bondsmen. But let's take it further. So as they got beyond the whole idea of indentured servitude and them being in their little plots, then they wanted to try to expand their land. So as they expanded their territory, what they would do is they would invade and conquer large and larger swaths of land that were owned and occupied by American Indians. And the way they justified this is they would, in their publications, in their books, in their magazines, and all of these things, they would demonize the Indians so bad. They would talk about them, call them savages, all these types of things, because they were using that to justify why they should take their land. Take it on a little bit further, slavery. So as this growing demand for labor, because as they acquired this land, as they took these swaths of land, as they took over these the Indians' lands, now they needed labor on these plantations. And the way they met that labor was through slavery. So who would serve as slaves? It couldn't be the poor whites, because the poor whites could speak English. They could understand how they were being mistreated. It couldn't be the English-speaking blacks who were part of the indentured servitude at first, because they also understood English and whatnot. Couldn't be the American Indians, because the American Indians fought back. So what they decided to do at that point was they started to import African slaves. Okay, you still with me? I'm going somewhere. I promise. I promise I'm gonna get to this whole vaccinism thing in a minute. Now, so let's fast forward. So as we fast forward, now slavery has been in existence for quite some time. While slavery is in existence, people started to rebel against it. The Civil War takes place. There's the Emancipation Proclamation, where President Lincoln freed the slaves. Then post-emancipation started the whole Reformation period, when the slaves, here it is, in the South. The South has been ravaged because of the war. Plantations are desolate. 4 million slaves have been set free. And the economy in the South is really in a bad spot. And then you have these people who are called the redemptionists. And they want to redeem the South. They want to try to get back to the days of slavery and back to the days of the plantations and all of those things. So all these things are going on at one time, right? And it's interweaving in this culture, because you got all these people who've been slaves for 4 million, 4 million slaves have been slaves for 400 years. They're out in the streets right now, and there is nothing in place to control them. So what's the only thing that controls them? The only thing that really can control them is this whole concept of racism. What is racism? It's something that's fueled by hate, that perpetuates the idea that one is superior, catch that, and that the one that's superior for some way, in some way or fashion, should be able to control the one that's supposedly inferior. So as we go forward, in around the 1890s, there started under Tom Watson and those, there was a movement that was started called the populist movement. And the populist movement was one of the political parties. They were also called the radicals. Now, they were consisted of blacks and whites. Now, listen to this. In 1890s, the populist movement consisted of blacks and whites that were willing to work together. Woodward quotes, he says, "It's altogether possible that during the brief populist upheaval in the 90s, Negroes and native whites achieved a greater comity of mind and harmony of political purpose than ever before or since in the South." In other words, during the 1890s after enslavement, during the Reformation, prior to Jim Crow, black people and white people. Well, let me put a caveat on that. Black working class and poor working class and white working class and poor working class people worked together towards a common goal, which was to better their communities. 15% of elected officials in the South after slavery, 15% were African American. So we were making some positive strides in that time. But during that time, there was a conservative reaction. Check it out. Alarmed by the successes of the populists and the potency of the alliance between poor and working class and between poor and working class whites and African Americans, the conservative raised the cry of white supremacy and resorted to the tactics they had employed in their quest for redemption, including fraud, including intimidation, bribery, and fraud. In other words, and this is what I'm trying to get to, they saw something that was cohesive. They saw something that was united. They saw something that was working together. And because it was working together and they were different, and according to different was deficient. I heard Jeremiah Wright say that. Different was deficient. And because different was deficient, there's no reason for us to work together, because one class should have been beneath the other, according to the conservative reaction. Populist movement, they're all working together, common goal. Political, they're making political strides in the right direction. They're doing 15% of elected officials are African American. Things that happen positively in the South, and then all of a sudden something happens to come along and start to bring about division. You know why? Because the dividends are in division. In other words, people make more money when there is division. If they can justify why slaves or black people should have been slaves, and why they were less than, and why they were only 3/5 of a man, and all those things, then they can also justify why they should be slaves. Then they can also justify why they should be locked up and in prison and should be thrown away, and the key should be thrown away. And they can also justify why police police should be able to shoot them down and get away with it. Come on, man. So, but in order for capitalism to work, understand this: there has to be losers, and the American Negro has always been the poster child. Yeah, because I'll understand. I mean, people get into politics. I try my best to stay out of politics on this show. I really do. Of gentrification and all, and now they're going back into the hood and back into the cities and buying up all of the dilapidated buildings and refurbishing those buildings and raising the tax dollars in those communities. And now it's almost next to impossible, unless you're wealthy, to move. I got a friend that just moved downtown for about 1,100 square foot apartment. I think he pays almost $3,000 a month. So it makes it difficult for those to move. But that's capitalism. In order for capitalism to work, somebody got to win. And this, understand, if we are divided, then typically, if I'm divided, then the two people that are divided, one thinks less of the other. And so if we think less of one another, then typically we have less of compassion for another, right? And so I believe that's what has transpired, because please understand this right here. And I'm going to get into this but in order to make this work, I had to explain, for vaccinalism to work, I really wanted to explain it against the backdrop of racism, to try to make it make sense. Now, understand that when slavery was emancipated, that meant that a whole bunch of free labor went out the door. So if free labor goes out of the door, how do you reclaim that free labor? How do you recoup? That's the word. How do you recoup that free labor? Well, I believe throughout time, through vagrancy, Jim Crow, all of those things, I think it was setting us up for the caste system that we have now, which is mass incarceration. And mass incarceration, if you haven't done any research on that, you need to take time to do that. because when you look at the prison system and you'll see that African American men make up roughly 6-7% of the U.S. population, but make up about 40% of the prison population. And the reason they've done that is because over time he's been emasculated, he's been demonized, he's been the word all other ethnicities in some cases even black women have become so desensitized towards him that desensitization has led to them not caring, and it's led to a division, and that division has created dividends for so many. Because if you think about it, prisons own the stock exchange now. I mean, there are several several prison stocks that people can go and purchase. I'm not going to give them to you because you go do your own research, but there is profit in punishment, and the only way that works is if we are divided. If we're divided. So, what are some areas Disco? These are some areas I believe that divide us. Some areas that we divide. Number one, race, black, white. African. You got so many different cultures in Africa that are against one another. So race is one. I think class. You got there is the high class people, then the so-called low class. The middle class is trending right now, because eventually there's no longer going to be a middle class. Either middle class is going to make that jump into high class, or all of us are going to end up being poor. What's some other things that divide us? Money. If the haves and the have-nots.
Political.
Yeah, but politics definitely divide us. Education divides us. I know a whole bunch of people that because they got a couple of degrees. I remember a friend of mine, they went out to a club one night, and I didn't go. I was still married at that time. I really didn't go to clubs or anything of that sort. Now I ain't gonna tell my business, but anyway, he said now these cats made $200-300 a year, and they were in the car business. Now they might not have had a degree, but they made money. And they walked into a club, and they were talking to these young ladies, African American ladies. And first thing the girl said, "Hey, we all got master's degrees over here. So don't come over here with no." So education will divide us. Some people think if you don't have a certain degree, that you're not on their level. So then they're not rocking with you. What's some other things? Another thing that divides us: colors. You had a whole city of Los Angeles, I believe, that was divided over red and blue. Colors, and then you got the gang colors and all those different things. Cities, states, territories. Some people, communities. You got some communities that'll fight against other communities. You got athletes. We all represent our team. Whoever your team might be, the Dolphins. My team, Tampa Bay, because of Tom Brady. Whoever your team is, those things have the people get in fights over their teams and all that stuff. It's crazy. I remember a couple of years ago, I think the Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants had a game, and they ended up, two different opposing fans got into a fight and ended up putting the dude in a coma over a game, because these are things that divide us. And now in 2021, the crazy part about it is that we've come into this something else, another issue that's dividing us. Check it out. We have the whole issue of the vaccine. And this has been a heck of a year. It's been a hell of a year. I'm going to just say it like that. It's been a hell of a year. If we go quick rewind back to February, March of 2020. I never will forget. I think it was the second week in March. I was working an event at a Dodge dealership on the east side of Atlanta, and all of a sudden the whole news starts talking about the virus that had taken over in China, and now people in the United States were starting to contract that same virus, and all of a sudden they were worried about it spreading. There was a tour, a cruise ship that they wasn't letting the people off the ship, and everybody's afraid, man. I'm talking about there, and then that wasn't nothing. We thought we would get over it in a couple of days, and then no, it didn't happen over a couple of days, because next thing you know, the president comes out, or the governor comes out, and the governor says that we're on a 30-day, in Georgia we were on a 30-day lockdown, and I think that was after New York and Los Angeles had been on lockdowns for several days or several weeks, and we ended up having to be in a lockdown, and all of a sudden we're in the lockdown, and now they're telling people that they're not going back to work, and the file for unemployment, and not only file for the unemployment, then the government says we're going to supplement your unemployment and we're going to give you $600 extra to go along with your unemployment. Now put a pin right there, and we're going to come back to that in a few minutes. But the government gave people that have never made $600 a week, all of a sudden now their time is worth $600 a week because they're going to be sitting at home for 30 days or however long because businesses were closing, manufacturing was stopping. I mean, everything, the hospital beds were filling up. And here we are in a panic, man. We in a straight panic now because everything was just going crazy, man. Here's a new virus. There's panic because people are dying. Then there's a lockdown, and then there's more deaths, people still dying, more panic, we can't go outside, more deaths, we need a cure, we need an antidote, we need something. And then all of a sudden, they rush and get FDA approval, and they get this emergency FDA approval or whatever it's called, and they come up with a vaccine. And then they come on with this big campaign where Joe Biden said, I want to have so many needles in people's arms by a certain date, 100 million, whatever it was. And there's this and then all of a sudden, it's just pandemonium. And now you got those that, because they've experienced loved ones dying, because they've been sick themselves, they've lost their jobs, they've had to get used to a whole new way of life. They get tired of being stuck in the house, tired of not being able to fly, tired of not going to restaurants. Still some restaurants still aren't open. You got to go. Drive-through restaurants are out on the street. Because everything is in pandemonium because of a pandemic. And everybody at that point, of course, wants a remedy. Everybody at that point wants a cure. Everybody wants an antidote. Everybody wants a panacea. But and then really there's no but. And then all of a sudden, here we have a vaccine. And because we have a vaccine, and I watch people, I ain't gonna lie, I'm just gonna be honest. Yeah, I heard certain people saying Jesus was the vaccine. Jesus was the vaccine. Jesus was the vaccine. And then here comes the vaccine. So now that there's a vaccine, is Jesus still the vaccine, or is the vaccine? No, that's probably being somewhat cynical, so I'm not going. So when the vaccine comes, here's a choice. Do I take the vaccine or do I not take the vaccine? And despite what was recommended by the authorities, when people started getting the vaccine, you watched them, they started getting their vaccination cards and taking pictures of them and putting them on the internet, even though people were saying, please don't do that because you're giving people that create fraud an opportunity to copy. People can take a screenshot and make a copy of it and actually recreate any document that they see. So they were advising people not to do that. But because people were getting vaccinated, they were proud, and that's a good thing. They should be proud. But they started sharing their status, and as they shared their status, more and more people started getting the vaccine. And they even had people that had a whole lot of influence, like pastors and celebrities and athletes. They had all these, even Hank Aaron. I remember him when they had him go out and get his vaccine. All of these people with influence, they wanted them to get vaccinated in the public eye. Now, here's the problem with that with me. According to the HIPAA law, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, it's a federal law that requires the creation of national standards to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent or knowledge. So, in other words, if a person wants to talk about their health status, that's on them. It shouldn't be mandatory. Well, it's probably going to be mandatory in the coming days, but it shouldn't be. What, Disco?
Yeah.
You familiar with the HIPAA Act, right?
Why would I be familiar with it?
I'm just saying, all of us. If you've been to the doctor before,
yeah,
you signed something about it.
Well, I know they can't give out information like at my job I had.
Mm-hmm.
When we had a driver that tested positive for it,
mm-hmm.
they couldn't tell you what the name was, but they can tell you somebody tested positive.
Yeah. But even before coronavirus came out, people couldn't share.
Talk,
They couldn't. I mean, they couldn't share your information.
Correct.
And legally, you were not bound to share. Now, of course, if you got AIDS and you start going out and having sex with a bunch of people, you're supposed to disclose that, and you can get charged with murder or whatever some type of crime for not doing it. But if I got, like for instance, I can have cancer, and I ain't got to tell nobody I have cancer. You know, I can sit here and lose weight, hair fall out of my head, all that kind of stuff.
What about this, Jay? What if you got corona and you know you got it and you don't tell nobody?
If I got corona and I got it, then yes, I do have to share because, well, you're not gonna know because I'm supposed to go in quarantine for 14 days.
What I'm saying is you get people that get tested and they get the results back and they say they got it and they still go out around people.
Yeah, that person's wrong. You can't do nothing about that. Yeah. Okay, but even with that, it's still that person's choice to tell, and they should tell, no doubt about that, because they're walking around with an infectious disease or something that somebody else can capture. But when it comes to getting a vaccine or not, you understand what I'm saying? Getting a shot, then I don't have to tell anybody what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, I know your shot status. You know what I'm saying? But it's not my job to run around and tell everybody what your shot status is. You know what I'm saying? And you know mine, possibly. You know what I'm saying? And it's not your responsibility to run around and tell everybody what my shot status is. I'm looking like in dating apps now. They put it on there. I'm vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, don't come my way. Okay. You know, on Facebook profile pictures, you know, they give you the different frames you can put up.
They're worried about more than corona.
Yeah, I'm much more worried about more corona than these days. But nowadays they put something on the board of health can't take off. I can ride. I can probably give me a few days and some elderberry.
Yeah, they give you some shot can't take.
But you give me some elderberry in a cup, I probably can go to sleep a few days. I ain't gonna lie. I think I
Where
had
you get
corona.
it from? I'm trying to find some.
Elderberry?
Yeah.
Walmart has some stuff with it.
Okay.
But I ain't gonna lie, I think I had it. But I think I had it prior to it coming out.
Okay.
Because in February, I think it was the first week in February, I was in Springdale, Arkansas, working a deal in Arkansas. And I had been down there that morning, been in Little Rock that morning, and that evening, man, by the time I got up on top of that mountain, man, I had chills. I had a fever. I was at the dealership, man. I couldn't even hardly do nothing. I had to go out to the car and sleep. And every time I would buy like full meals and couldn't eat the meals, you know what I'm saying? And man, I did something. And I ain't even have health insurance at that particular time. So I went, man, and bought some amoxicillin, some kind. I ain't gonna tell them how I did it, but I went and bought some amoxicillin, and I went and bought a bunch of Pedialyte. And by that third or fourth day, I started to feel a little better. I got real hydrated on the Pedialyte. And I don't know, man, the amoxicillin probably wasn't doing nothing, but I guess I was rigging it my own way. But but whatever it was, I beat it within 3 or 4 days. In fact, if I got it on Wednesday, I preached that Sunday, and made my way back to Atlanta. And I did still cough a little bit beyond that, but I think but that was the worst I felt, and I haven't felt any worse since then, right? But like I said, now this whole issue of the vaccination, and because people are emotional because of the hysteria that was created as it relates to the pandemic, because I know, man, people got sick, people lost loved ones, all those types of things. Now everybody's formed their own opinions, and I believe it's created division. I saw one lady put on a post one time after a friend of mine had put on, he said that he had just gotten the vaccine. First thing, she went in her, she said, "Good, I'm glad you're on our side." And when she said, "I'm glad you're on our side," I guess in essence what she was saying is that there were two different sides. And so when she says that there are two different sides, that's what threw me off, because it bothered me to the standpoint that now people have taken sides, that we found something else to discriminate against, or something else to be divided against. And you know what was so amazing to me during the pandemic? That martyr, and I'm gonna call him a martyr. I don't care what some other people might call him, but George Floyd was killed in the public eye, right? I mean, everybody sat there and watched George the Chauvin put his knee on that man's neck for 9 minutes, however long it was, and kill him. And at that point, guess what happened? People of every ethnicity, people all over the world started to unite. And for the first time in almost my 49 years of living, it seemed like we had a little bit of hope as far as overcoming some of the elements of racism and getting to some form of a unified front or some form of unity. But then all of a sudden, here comes something else, as small and as minute as it may seem. And here comes something else that's powerful enough to divide us, because what used to be private, talking about our health diagnoses and our vaccines and all those types of things, what used to be private, now all of a sudden it is being set up for public consumption. And I don't know about that. I don't know how right that is. I don't know if that's okay, because the other day I was watching Sports Center, and LeBron James, because they got the thing in place about the athletes, if the athletes don't all get vaccinated, and then there's an outbreak on a team, and they have to forfeit a game, they're going to forfeit the game. They won't be able to make the game up, and they'll lose their game check. So that means if a team is on the run towards the playoffs, then it could eventually really forfeit them if make them really cost them if the whole team isn't vaccinated. So some of the reporters asked LeBron James if he was vaccinated, and he didn't answer it either way, but he basically told me, everything that I do for my family, and I don't do it for y'all. And my teammates are my family. So whatever I'm doing, basically what he was saying was, it's my business. That's the way I read that. Now, some people read that to say that he was saying that he didn't get vaccinated. I don't know if he got vaccinated or not. But if he did or didn't get vaccinated, that's a choice that he's making for him and his family. Last year during the baseball season, there were several baseball players and football players that opted out of the season. Why? Because they didn't understand this virus. And because they didn't understand this virus, they didn't want to subject themselves to potentially being around more people and potentially contracting the virus. Guess what? That's their choice. Person like me, anybody that knows me, of course, you see me in the public eye as far as preaching all that stuff. But when I leave a crowd, I'm usually looking for a corner to go sit in, because I'm such an introvert and I enjoy being by myself. So that 30-day lockdown that we went through with the pandemic, that didn't bother me at all. I went to Walmart, got me some groceries, and came back to the house and chilled out. That was a good time for me. And I don't hang around many people anyway. So, only time I hang around people is when I go to work, which is a few days a month or whatever I decide to do. But with that being said, if I decide to get vaccinated, or if I decide not to get vaccinated, that's my choice. My children, if they decide to get vaccinated, if they decide not to get vaccinated, that's their choice. And guess what? I'm still going to go see my children. And my children can still come see me. Because it is what it is. I'm sorry, I don't want to say that. Because it's not, me saying that it is what it is can sound somewhat insensitive, but it's not. But it's not any less insensitive than the person I heard the other day say, well, if they don't get vaccinated, let them die. Huh? And this is somebody that, and I'm not going to put them on blast, but that's what they said. Another person called me the other day, and they were doing their pitch, as far as why everybody needs to get vaccinated. Kirk, are you vaccinated? It's none of your business. Well, Kirk, if you're not vaccinated, you need to do it because of this and that. And the person that told me that person has been vaccinated, and I think that person has caught COVID maybe twice now. So they talk about how much data and all this kind of stuff that they're using and all this. It's not, all of this is on the job training. The stuff, if it just really hit the United States and it's just a variant, people just not getting human, we don't know what's going on. So a lot of people just don't know. And all we can do is hope that we're being told the truth, and hope that we get good information, and hope that if we do get the shot, that it keeps us from dying, because I know it won't keep us from catching the virus again, because several people are catching the virus after they have been vaccinated. And so, with that being said, it makes one wonder that if here a person that has been around all of these, 20 some odd months, 20 some odd, what is it, 14, 15, 16 months, whatever it is, and they have not gotten vaccinated, I know some people who hadn't even taken a COVID test and haven't had symptoms or any of those things. If they haven't been vaccinated, or they haven't been exposed or haven't gotten sick or haven't had any symptoms, but they see you and you have been vaccinated and you keep catching the virus, why would that make that person run and go, okay, I got somebody gonna call in? Now I'm gonna be honest, this conversation, let me get them on the line, because I'm not gonna debate or argue this whole conversation. I want to have a good conversation, but I just want to get everybody's input. All right. Listen, if you hung up, do me a favor. If you're listening and you hung up, call right back. We were trying to get the phone set up. Phone number 678-638-6626. If you just called in, we had to get the phone set up. I wasn't really. I got caught up off guard on that phone call. But call back in 678-638-6626. But it makes one question really: why or why not one would, even though the statistics. But it seems like the bets have been hedged. I mean, all the way around, because they say you can get the virus even though you got vaccine. Vaccine don't keep you from getting the virus. But now the common theme is the main ones that are getting hospitalized are those that are not vaccinated. Okay, so that's the case. I get it. That's where we are. But I want to talk for these last 18 minutes about, and if we finish early, we just finish early. Like I said, if whoever just called in, I am accepting phone calls. Put the number in. Phone number is 678-638-6626. And y'all, want you to call in and tell me why you are or why you are not getting vaccinated. And you can do it under the auspices of anonymity. You don't, if you don't want to say your name, you don't have to say your name, especially if you're saying why you're not getting vaccinated. But if you want to call in and tell me why you're getting vaccinated or why you're not getting vaccinated, I'm welcoming those phone calls. 678-638-6626. I have a friend. No, I'm not going to say her name. Well, Dorothy says she has been vaccinated and still got COVID. Dorothy, does that make you regret getting the vaccination at all? If you don't want to call in and talk about it, we can chat here about it right here. But does that make you regret getting vaccinated because you did get vaccinated and you still got COVID? All right. So while she's responding, I'm gonna talk about the 6 reasons. An article that I came up on today that talked about the 6 reasons why people. Ooh, that's interesting. She says she does. Disco. She says she does regret being vaccinated.
I'm feeling that shit now.
All right, somebody call me. Let's hear it. All right, like I said, if you want to say your name, fine. If it's not, just say I want to be anonymous. All right, somebody, caller, you're on the line. Hello.
Hey, James. How are you?
Oh Lord, I already know who it is. I'm not gonna say your name though. Let me see what time it is. It's 8:44. I'm gonna give you 180 seconds to get your point across.
Okay.
All right, Dorothy said, did you hear Dorothy? Dorothy said she's been vaccinated, still got COVID, and it made her say, "What's the point?"
Yeah. So my thing with that is, I heard you when you said a lady was made the statement, and I've heard this a couple times. Well, if you don't get vaccinated, then don't go to the hospital, then you need to die. So we're letting this vaccine divide us and not being intelligent enough to see what it is. But my thing is this right here, because I've shut a lot of people down with this one. But first of all, I'm tired of people blaming unvaccinated people because they just released something that said the people that have been vaccinated, now they're shedding, because Minister Farrakhan talked about this July 4th of last year of what was going to happen.
They're shedding?
They're shedding, and not like the skin, but it's the shedding of the drug. So that's where the Delta variant is coming from. So now we back on. I just saw it. That's why I called in. Well, now you need to wear the mask on the inside. So, yeah, the ones, and I posted it on Facebook because CNN was talking about it.
Wow.
So that's what's happening. But at the end of the day, I'm seeing families being torn apart, people saying, well, you can't see my kids if you're not vaccinated. When did we start operating in fear? Now, these are Christian people. I don't know nothing about us folks, but I'm talking about Christians. So now you're going to believe the CDC that's done lied 50, 11 times.
How many?
But 50-11.
Wow.
Like Beyonce say, 50-11. They done lied 50-11 times. They have proven themselves unworthy to be trusted. All of this, but and you passing judgment. But what about God? That's what I'm saying. But you mad at me because I won't do what you say to get vaccinated. But I said, do you listen to God? So I'm supposed to listen to you, but you ain't listening to the man.
Wow.
That's crazy. But you want to believe in the CDC, and God says he's a jealous God.
Yep.
So you put all your trust, and he tells you in the scripture, you don't put your trust in man, and now look what's happening. You put your trust in, but see, people start operating in fear, and my thing is this right here, another one. When the government start paying us to do a damn thing, now you can get you an iPhone 8.
You just earned 60 more seconds. Go ahead. You got 60 more seconds.
Yeah, iPhone 8. Because they know, to me, it's a target of the black family. Yeah. Because I had children before small in school. Everybody had to have that Apple, that iPhone, because it made you somebody. So that's how they going to pull us in, too. We got to be smarter than that and stick together and stop letting this government divide us, because we all we got. Because once you get separated, they going to start bling, bling, pegging y'all. But we got to get God back in this thing. So it's a choice. I mean, I don't care if you're vaccinated or not. But don't call me out, tell me what's best for me, because like I told a friend of mine, well, you can't come if you ain't vaccinated. I said, okay, so what if I was stupid enough to listen to you, and let's say I got paralyzed, because that's what's happening when you take the shot. Some people, not everybody, getting paralyzed. I said, they said misery loves company, and I'm going to be a miserable broad, and I'm going to need your legs. Because I'd be damned if I see you on Facebook kicking it with your husband and I listen to you and you okay and I'm not. No, I got to have you. Wow. So stay in your lane and trust God. That's all I'm saying. And wear your mask. That's all. Wear your mask and stay people. But see, we need to sit down. The problem is ain't nobody fasting and praying no more. He said he'll heal our land if we fast and pray.
If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and do what? Pray.
Fast and pray, he will heal our land. But see, we done got so microwavish. We don't want to stop eating. We don't want to go out. He's shutting it down. It's shutting down for a reason. Stay at home and fast and pray and get with your family. Look, I lost 10 pounds over this thing. I stopped. I had to do me a good old fast and ate garden food, me and my dogs. And I feel good. But you had to get in. I turned the TV off, turned the Facebook off, and got in the Word. But see, don't nobody want to be disciplined anymore. That's it. That's all. And have a nice night, James, and you're doing a great job.
I'm not going to say your name, but I sure appreciate you for calling. Those are all her opinions and not necessarily ours, but I will admit I do agree with most of them. Have a good night. Talk to you later.
Okay, before we go, let me say this one too. And when people say things, no, that's they do that. I'm dealing with my mother that took that shot. My mom, since she took that second shot, blacks out uncontrollably. Don't know, the neighbors found her outside. And this is not the first, the second, it's the third time. Nothing ever happened to her till she hit that shot. And all hell is breaking loose. And see, when those things happen, not that I don't want to take care of my mama, but when you didn't listen and you said in fear and you snuck and you did that, it ain't trying to say it's a burden on me, but it sure is a bigger house when I got to do it on my own, but I'm still going to do it.
You might as well.
So I'm just saying. Saying, things happen. All right, bye.
Have a good night, okay? All right, my son just asked a question on here. He said, how do you feel about people getting vaccinated simply because they trust science? I don't have an opinion, son. Honestly, people can do what people want to do. That's my thing. Just don't tell me what to do. That's my only thing. My problem comes when people start to tell each other what to do. One of our biggest problems in our society is point the finger righters. We want to point the finger at somebody else as if we have all of this. None of us have any data on this. This is new to all of us. And because it's so new to all of us, we allow our emotions to control us. I don't trust the government a bit more than I can throw them. I mean, like I said, and I really want to deal with the 6 reasons people aren't getting vaccinated. But people, let's do math. Let's just do simple math. Back then, this is just March of 2020, average, I mean, I think people were making $7, $8 an hour. $8 an hour, if you work 40 hours a week, ain't but $320 a week. If you get unemployment, you're lucky you might get $200 a week in the state of Georgia. They were putting a $600 stipend on top of that. People making, and you wonder why people won't go back to work. They won't go back to work because you showed them what their real worth was. You want them to go to work every week for $200-$300 a week, for $500-$600 every $400-$500 every 2 weeks, and now they bringing home $800-$900 a week. I wouldn't go back either. And then guess what a lot of people did? They started their own businesses during the pandemic. I mean, people, and then guess what? In their own businesses, they could create enough the same income that you were paying them at KFC to work for 40 hours a week and have to listen to somebody yell at them and all that kind of craziness and all that kind of stuff. So I understand, but so that kind of backfired. And I believe it also backfired when they created so much pandemonium when they thought everybody was going to run and get vaccinated. Well, everybody didn't run and go get vaccinated. So now we got to figure out another way. How do we get all of these people in to go and get the vaccine? Because trust me, Dorothy ain't the only one that feels the way she feels. It's several people that are regretting the fact that they got this shot because of what the ramifications that they're feeling today. A lot of people are regretting it, and some people aren't. But if they're not, or if they are, that's their choice. Okay, here's some reasons. I only got 8 minutes. First reason is a lack of access, whether it's real or perceived. In other words, it means that I'm scared to do it because I don't know if I can do it without putting my livelihood at risk. In other words, I'm gonna give you an example. I've only taken a flu shot one time in my life. The only time I took a flu shot, I caught the flu. So, got a lot of people that believe if you're going to put something inside of me, and I got a weak immune system, then guess what? I'm going to get sick or whatever. So, lack of access, real or perceived. The second reason is because a lot of people don't really see COVID-19 as a real threat. Some people believe it's just the flu. Some people believe that the numbers are because in the beginning they were talking about they were putting COVID-19 on everybody's birth certificate and hospitals were getting so much. I don't know none of that kind of stuff. I don't care. It's a threat. It's a threat. I'm staying at home anyway. I'm going to put on my mask. I'm going to put on some hand sanitizer. I know how to wash my hands. I'm going to take a shower every day. I'm going to do all the things I'm supposed to do anyway. So, hey, but some people don't believe it's a threat. I'm just talking about why people don't take the shot. Another reason is because of the side effects. I got a friend right now that just had a shot, just did a second shot, and he's going through pain, bad pain right now. I mean, he said he told me that his side effects of the vaccine are worse than when he actually had the doggone virus. Dorothy just basically said the same thing right here. I got family member, very close family member to me, had the vaccine. She ended up had the vaccine. She ended up getting the virus and was in the bed for a few days. I mean, so you got a lot of people who don't want to deal with the side effects, and then they deal with they're afraid of the health risk or unproven claims. For instance, there was some who was suggesting that it might lead to infertility. Now I won't mind that because I don't want any more children, but. Let me make that choice on my own. I don't want you to make that choice for me. Then there are some people who just don't trust or believe in vaccines. They don't believe in vaccines. I mean, right now, we're in a society that is very, very health conscious. And with them being health conscious, you got people like that eat Impossible burgers and that are vegans and pescatarians and those that only eat chicken and fish, and I mean, you got all different kinds of people that are so. You have so many people that have all of these types that eat all of these types of things. I mean, they're doing all they can to protect themselves. So with all of the health things they're doing, they're not going to tank their body by putting a vaccine. So we're just talking about reason. Tone, I don't understand your point there. You're going to deal with something. I don't understand completely what you're saying. I know you. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand. If you want to call in, though, phone number 678-638-6626. 678-638. And like I said, I'm not advocating for either way. If you want to get the shot, get your shot. If you don't want to get the shot, don't get the shot. Just don't call me telling me what to do. That's all. That's the only suggestion I have. And leave other folks alone. And quit trying to create more division between us because we already have enough division. All right, 2 more reasons. What I say? The first one was lack of access. Second one, they don't see COVID as a real threat. Another one is the vaccine side effects. The fourth one is they don't trust in vaccines, and the next one is that they don't trust in institutions. Some people do not trust the government. A lot of people just don't, and they don't believe the government will use its people as guinea pigs. They believe that medicine will use people as guinea pigs. And one of the books I read that really impacted me during the pandemic, and I had to stop reading, man, because I was getting that mad, but was a book called Medical Apartheid. And they talked about all of the things they did to African American people in the name of science. And they used us as human guinea pigs. And it goes deeper than just the Tuskegee Institute. People misquote that all the time, thinking that they put syphilis in those people at Tuskegee. No, the people had syphilis. They just didn't cure them. They wanted to see what the effects of syphilis was on the brain, so they just let the serious syphilis deteriorate them. But that's just one thing they done to African Americans over the years. I mean, they talked about how some doctors would go and buy slaves and bring them home just to run tests on them. And that's just, this has been going on. And that's why a lot of our grandparents and stuff, they were afraid to go to the doctor because they knew that and grandmama and them used to always say, even in the church, doctors only practice medicine. And so with them practicing medicine, I ain't want them practicing on me, So so that therefore a lot of people just don't trust in institutions. They don't feel like they want to be used as a guinea pig or whatever. Despite how much evidence you show them, they're going to form their own opinions. And then the last reason, of course, is a variety of conspiracy theories. I'm not going to feed in to any of those conspiracy theories. I have my own theories as it relates to what's going on. So I'm not going to feed any of those extra theories, whatever they are. We're just talking dialoguing as it relates to why people are not getting vaccinated. But my problem is, if you're going to get the shot or if you're not going to get the shot, do you? Do whatever you're going to do. I mean, whatever. I teach, I was talking to somebody about my children today. And they were talking about what, they're going to tell their children to do this or not going to tell their children to do that. I said, I didn't raise my children to tell them what to or what not to do. I raised my children to make a good decision. And with that being said, as long as they can make a good decision, then I've done my job as a parent. And I believe that as adults, and all of my children, with the exception of one, as an adult, she'll be 18 in November, if God says the same. And she'll graduate high school in December. She's going to graduate early. But at that point, she's grown, and whatever decision she makes, that's her decision. And whatever decision people make, that's their decision. You got all these companies now that are saying that if you don't have the vaccine, that you won't be able to come into their establishment. Some companies won't allow you to work for them. You won't be able to go certain places or whatnot. You won't be able to fly on certain airlines eventually, whatever. You can't come to certain islands, all those types of things. If that's the case, and the person has chosen not to get vaccinated, guess what? They've also made the choice not to fly. They've also made the choice not to go overseas. They've also made the choice not to work for those companies. But if they make that choice, that's their choice. But with that being said, we don't need to become any more divided than we are. We're not. It's already enough that's been instituted to destroy us as a people. Give me my outside. Give me my outgoing music. Disco. We're about done. It's already been enough that's been instituted to destroy us as a people. And I'm at a point now where I don't believe that we'll ever be able to save all of us. But I do believe that we can save some of us, and that is what I do. I want to save as many people as we can, because I want us all to get on the path towards better. Thank you all for listening to the Intellectual Stew with James Kirkland tonight. I hope I've challenged your thought process to some degree. If you didn't get a chance to listen to the whole show, go back and listen to it so you can listen to how we juxtapose racism with what we call vaccinism. But understand this. I'll see you again on next week, and we'll get back into some more intellectual, hopefully, topics. But if I don't see you anymore, remember this: the world is changing. Why do you remain the same? Do me a favor. Have a good night.